What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. It's Thursday, almost the end of the week. I'm Gigi Fruit Loop. What you know?
I can't say the weather because it's nasty, rainy, cold here. So it's not the weather's not good. Um,
If I could portal right now, I would portal to Hawaii.
okay, somebody gave us a good portal thing, and I forgot where it was. So I can't remember.
Look, people have been killing me with their comments. So one
Yeah.
one girl, I should have wrote her name down. She was talking about songs and she's, light my fire by the doors. She said, light my loin fire. So
I
that,
saw that.
that's just got me going because music is my life. And
Yeah,
so I'm just going to have to come up with a whole list of songs with
that's
this
funny.
case. So first off, we want to thank our sponsor, Two Cool T-shirt quilts. Look behind me. You can see two samples of their amazing work. So you don't have to get just a quilt. You can get pillows, memorial blankets, baby blankets, all kinds of stuff. And you can go to their website at twocooltshirtquilts.com/pretty lies and alibis. And what can they do, Fruit Loop?
They can take your t-shirts and make them into a quilt that is too cool.
Yes, they can. All right. So we want to give a very happy Veterans Day to anybody listening who has served and also to the families that have to adjust to life without their loved ones. I kind of feel
Yep.
like they don't get all the recognition they deserve. I posted a picture of our grandfathers. Both of our grandpas are veterans of World War II.
Yep. Yep. My grandfather was a tail gunner in a B-17 and B-24, like on the
Yeah.
very back of the plane. Yep.
Yeah. I've always loved kind of hearing your research about all that.
Mhm.
And my grandpa was in France, he was in the army. I think he was in France and Germany for the most
Mhm.
part. And actually, I want to look up I think you can look up where he was, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I really want to do that. He, like a lot of people, didn't really talk about his time over there.
Yep.
But now that, I'm older, I appreciate his service way more than I did when I was a kid. So I would love to find out what what he did. So, and also I want to give a shout to William, one of our YouTube listeners, and he brought up a point that I really hadn't thought about, which is we were talking about why did Lori zero in on Brandon Boudreaux so hard, and he said, well, Brandon had $1 million life insurance policy. So when
True.
Charles's fell through, maybe that's or maybe she was doing that to get more money before because according to Melanie Gibb, she started this before Charles was murdered. I
Yep.
think she was just looking at who had the biggest policies and was like, "Oh, they're dark, they're dark." Just a good theory I really hadn't put together. So thanks, William. We love reading everybody's comments, and you guys have some good points, and you guys keep it classy, and we appreciate that because we hate drama and we don't have it. So
Yep.
thank y'all. So I started Zulema's police tape, and I will say this one's going much quicker than Melanie Gibbs did. I think because Melanie Gibb talks a lot, there's just so much more there to where Zulema is kind of more reserved in her answers. But there was one thing I did have to say on today's episode. She said that they had code words for when it was safe to talk and when it was safe not to talk. So I did not get this backwards. When it was safe to talk, they would say, not happy Bob, which I think is from The Incredibles, the Pixar movie, The
Yeah.
Incredibles. And then I kind of thought, was that Lori's idea? Because I remember seeing JJ in a Halloween costume that was The Incredibles. Just
Yep.
how my mind went. If it was not safe, they would say Pretty Bird. And immediately I thought about the movie Dumb and Dumber because it's not funny, but they give the little blind kid the dead bird and he's petting it saying Pretty Bird.
Yep.
So I thought Dumb and Dumber was definitely more appropriate for that.
Yeah, because we know they're Dumb and Dumber.
Yes.
Mhm.
Dateline, Friday, 9 o'clock Eastern. There's going to be a new 2-hour special that's covering these documents. And I think maybe there's going to be a few little bits in there we have not heard about before. So tune in. We're going to talk about it probably Monday on that episode. We'll see what all they put out there. And I'm really excited to see something new about the case. So, yeah, don't forget to set your DVR or whatever you do.
Yep. So you had some kind of cat fight, right?
Oh my, okay. So we talked about my dog door. I had to have it fixed because I woke up the other morning gaping hole, like the dog had just plowed through it. It was off. And we were talking about how things can get through the dog door. And last night, it was about 4 a.m., I think. I wake up and I hear a cat fight on my bed, like on my bed. So I jump up to go turn my light on because it's just pitch dark in my room. I trip over Thunder, by the way.
Poor
I
Thunder.
get right. No, Thunder he's a black dog and it's pitch dark in my room. And I had my flashlight on my phone, but I was more pointing towards the cats. So it's my brother's dog. He lives across the street. Well,
Your
this
brother's
is
cat.
yeah. Oh, good. See, look, I probably hit my head and don't know it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I turn the light on and I separate them and I throw Ozzy, his name's Ozzy, outside. And so it's just funny. We talked about things coming through the dog door that shouldn't, such as my brother's cat. And I mean, I'm talking like MMA right there at the foot of my bed. There was cat hair everywhere.
You better hope you don't get no skunk coming through there.
You hush. Speaking of, how do you think the snake got in your house? I was laying in bed last night thinking about this.
I think it came maybe, I don't know.
Dude, it probably came from that creepy basement you got.
It could be. It is creepy down there.
Oh, I would not go down there. I went down there once, and I mean, halfway
It's
down,
creepy.
I had the willies. Just
Yeah, it's creepy.
crazy. So we are really quickly going to finish this Melanie Gibb police interview from August of last year.
Yep.
We're going to start Zulema's next, and then we will go back to Melanie Gibb's other interview, which is longer than the first. So I'm going to be a little more selective in what I put on this paper because it feels like we will never get done with these documents.
I know, right? It's crazy, but it's a lot of good stuff, though. It
It
connects.
really is. I mean, that's why I've enjoyed just sitting and watching. So when we left off yesterday, we were talking about the last thing we said was that Melanie Gibb said all this showed her that she had like a defect in her spiritual armor or something. Yeah. And now it's fortified and she's grateful for the knowledge, but not what happened. And she was horrified that people died because of these crazies. So let's pick up from there.
Melanie said someone like Chad comes along and he is humble, sweet, and kind and looks like a typical Idaho boy. You don't think they're lying to you. And she just says she thought he was who he was. She started to see the flags of deception, little things along the way, and she gives the example of them saying they're getting these messages from God, and she said it doesn't work like that. She goes on to say they would say God would give them a list of things to do every day, and Melanie said they must have it together better than her because God doesn't talk to her like that. She said Chad had all these visions, but she doesn't think he really has visions. She thinks he's making it all up.
You think, Melanie?
Teleporting to...
Yeah.
You wonder if mentally they just... I can just see them standing in a closet or something.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
And just saying, oh, I'm in... You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like one of those virtual experiences.
Well,
that's what it is. They got the VR on.
I know, right?
Yeah, they got the...
it probably went down that they're standing in the closet, and then Chad is the one that delivers all the messages, and he would say, wow, we just portaled. And Lori's like, wow, I didn't even know it. It was so fast.
Yeah. I'm still going with VR. That's funny.
Hey, look, do you remember when I got the VR for the PlayStation, and we were playing those zombie games and stuff?
Yeah. It gives me a headache.
I tripped over my coffee table. I was so scared.
That's exactly what it is, though.
That's what my son wants for Christmas is a VR headset for his PC. These kids want like laptops and all this stuff. And my 10-year-old, like, she doesn't believe in Santa, but she won't admit it. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard because normally now with the big kids, I'm like, here's what we're doing. What do you really want?
Yeah.
Don't make me guess.
Yeah. Okay. So she mentions a woman's name and it's bleeped out. She said she got to visit with this woman and Chad wrote her book for her about her visions, but she said he didn't share his near-death experience with this woman. And Melanie said you would do that. Like you would compare stories. And I would say I would agree with that.
I'm kind of wondering if this isn't. I don't know if this is maybe that woman published that really
I
long
remember
conversation she had with Melanie. I don't know. I
there
don't
was
know why I
another
got.
lady that wrote wrote books with like he was her publisher. I want to say her name was Janet, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder if this is not who she's talking about.
Could be.
I could be wrong.
This woman thinks Chad stole stuff from her and Julie Rowe and others and created this story and was good at conning people and a good writer. She said Chad told her the books were fiction, and she said him claiming it was fiction was his safety net. The investigator says back to armor. Melanie says it's in scripture like spiritual armor of God. He asked, did she ever reach out to Chad for a blessing? And she said one time her son was sick and she asked him if he could give him a blessing, something like that. And she says, you're going to find this interesting. But she said when her son was sick, she was ministering to him and using essential oils and healthy ways to get him better. She said, I didn't do energy work because I didn't know how, but he fell asleep and felt better. And when he woke up, the fever came back. So I'm gonna see if Chad can help out because I heard he could do that to other people. He gives the blessing. She jumps in the shower, comes out after 10 minutes, and her son is completely better. She texts Chad to let him know, and he said he extracted some entity or dark virus from her son.
Yeah, so she told Chad, whatever you did, he's better. And she said, this is between you and me. And of course, now all of us with the document dump. But she says, what I think happens is when you open dark doors, it gives you power to do things like manipulating and deceiving, which mirror things that look like they're healing and good. And if you have the power to put a virus in someone, you have the power to remove it. And she thinks that's how Chad did it. So you see, still in August of last year, she's still giving Chad credit for performing this little minor miracle on her kid.
Yeah.
I just kind of am of the theory that maybe the Tylenol kicked in. I don't know. Call me a skeptic.
Yeah.
So the investigator gives an example of Chad telling Zulema he removed something from her and it increased something else. I mean, some of it's a little confusing, but Zulema would say, I don't know what Chad did, but took all the darkness off me and I feel better. And, it's almost like a placebo effect when she said that. You know how like you can give somebody an aspirin and tell them you're going to trip out. You're going to be high as a kite.
Yeah.
Or give them a sugar pill and they think that they're high when really everybody who's in on it kind of looks back and says, yeah, it's just that brain thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can convince yourself of a lot of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Your mind is very powerful.
It is super powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That is the truth. Sometimes I have to turn mine off, which I think I do all the time because then sometimes I'm just kind of like, what?
Yeah.
But she said Zulema was more involved than she was because she had all these things she didn't have, like these talents. And she thinks that's why Zulema had a harder time kind of emerging from all of this because her energy work really got her sucked in. Mm-hmm. And she really thought it was all from God and it wasn't, which, I mean, a lot, you'll hear that from people that emerge from cults. They'll tell you in it, they really felt the power of whatever they were doing. And most of them will say, we felt like this was approved by God. And he asked her if she's talked to Melanie Pulowski, and she said she tried to talk to her, and she said, like, hey, Brandon isn't a zombie. And this was around Christmas. And Melanie said, I can't talk. The phone's being bugged. And so to me, this is after Alex had died and they're all kind of scattered. And it's interesting because another part in Zulema's testimony, she talks about they would do these conference calls. And at one point, it was really hard after Chad and Lori moved from Rexburg to Hawaii to get in touch with them. And she said at one point, Melanie Pulowski was just sobbing and crying because she couldn't get in touch with Chad and Lori. And, Zulema made a good point, actually. She said, you get all these blessings and all this buildup, and then they disappear, and you kind of depend on that stuff. And I thought to myself, maybe this is kind of the time where Melanie Pulowski is left alone with what she did and doesn't have Lori or Chad there to say, oh, you're great, you're doing the right thing. That kind of stood out to me, and I just finished doing that right before we went on. But I just thought it was interesting that she was so upset she couldn't get in touch with Chad and Lori. She knew nothing was wrong with them, but Anyways, weeks later, Melanie texts her during the night and says, "Do you remember the name of a song?" And they talked to Melanie, and they talked to Melanie Gibb, and said she tried to counsel Melanie after that, but Melanie would say she just couldn't share much about what was going on with her at the time. So after that, she maybe tried to text that she was praying for her, and Melanie Gibb said she tried her best to pull. She did like she was pulling a rope. She said, "I did my best to try to pull Melanie Pulowski in, but the response was always busy. Thanks for the prayers." And she saw her at the temple once and talked to her. She said it was Summer, Zulema, and Melanie Pulowski on the couch. Well, Melanie walks into the celestial room and saw Melanie Pulowski and got excited because she thought this might be the time to have a one-on-one with her and try to talk some sense into her. And then she saw Zulema, and she said Zulema had her head down in prayer and sat up. So Melanie turned around, and she said she went and sat in the corner, and Melanie Pulowski never came and talked to her. So she said it bummed her out.
Mm. She texts Melanie that she saw her at the temple, and that was maybe the last text, and she hasn't tried to contact her. She knows Melanie Pulowski has made statements about her belief structure, and she doesn't think there's a place for her in Melanie's life. The investigator asked if Melanie Pulowski came over the night she spent the night with Lori on July 9th, and she said she doesn't remember. She asked where she slept that night, and she said if you walk from the kitchen on the right is JJ's bedroom, and Tylee's was on the other side. She slept in the room with crazy stuff on the walls and a queen mattress on the floor. This is where the food storage was. Melanie says in all she maybe slept over 3 times. She said she doesn't think Alex was there on the 9th. She had seen him there before, though. Dude, they didn't have any. The furniture they had in these places was crazy.
No, I mean in this last house where Charles was murdered and in Rexburg, they almost seemed like they were just passing through.
Yeah.
And I said in a previous episode, it's really sad for the kids because it didn't seem like a home.
Mm-mm.
And I guess at that point, the focus just was not on the kids at all. So it makes sense that they were just sort of, I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised they had a bathroom because Lori didn't need one, apparently.
For real. She said her memory isn't so good, but some bad things just leave an imprint. The investigator says it's hard because they're asking her about stuff that seemed mundane at the time. She said she is here to help however she can. Melanie said one thing she did think of was that was important was the recording she did. She said, why would Alex say this? That she wouldn't want to know where the kids are and they won't be found. Melanie said that information was from Zulema. And Lori said, I don't know why he would say that. I didn't even want him to know, and he doesn't even know where the kids are. Melanie says to her, that means we can't blame Alex. If you're an attorney, you can't put that on Alex when she said they didn't want him to know. She said if they're trying to blame Alex, she thinks that part of the recording is helpful, and I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a little roadblock for Lori and Chad both, I think. They're obviously going to try to throw it on Alex as far as the murders, but when you're saying he didn't know and he's not here to give his side of the story, that could be very, and like we said all along, we think we know where it's going as far as who murdered the kids, but we really don't know. All we know is that Alex was on that property when the kids' bodies were being buried. We've heard nothing about Chad's cell phone pings the night of these murders, where he was. So I really am excited to find out on December 2nd when this trial is going to start. And I do think maybe they'll try to get this started just so they can not have to do the co-defendant thing with Lori while she's incompetent.
Yeah. So Melanie said maybe that can be used against Lori. She said, I know you guys know so much more than I do. As she's leaving, Melanie says it's been a hellish year, but one of a great learning experience, not experience, but just great learning for her. And she's glad she went through this instead of anyone else. She said she was so involved because she's so trusting and that's her weakness. She's gullible.
I do think she's gullible.
Yeah.
At the same time, I used to be, I don't want to say defensive of Melanie Gibb, but I used to just think she's really gullible. But the more I've seen these documents, it's just red flags were flying up all over the place. And I don't think you can ignore, when Charles, what happened to him after he was declared a zombie, once she's calling Tylee Hillary and saying JJ's a zombie, and she's in that house
Yep.
right there at the time where JJ's murdered. I'm not as sympathetic to her as I used to be.
Yeah.
So the investigator says he's come across people like that, and he calls it being naive. He says with religion, you're more trusting, and he gives the example of priests and somebody in a high level of authority, and they can manipulate that high level of trust. And she says she's researching stuff and came across something that said one of the devil's greatest tricks is to convince people that they're following God when they're not. And she says, look at how many people have killed and raped in the name of religion. And she said Lori and Chad are still in that bubble, and she won't talk to them until that's gone. That was interesting to me. So it lets me think maybe she is open, or I don't think she'll ever talk to them again, but maybe she would be open if they came to their senses. And she says she wants to say, Lori, you've killed your kids, or Chad or Alex, whoever did. Melanie thinks all three were involved in the killing of the kids, and she wants to tell Lori she needs serious prayers, and she hopes that Lori gets to the point to where she realizes what she's done. And that ended that interview with the police August of last year. We'll do Zulema's next, and then we will go into Melanie Gibb's newest with Chandler.
Mm-hmm.
With Zulema, there was somebody there from Fremont County. He came in for this interview. Her lawyer was there, and then you had somebody from Chandler. So I'm excited to keep diving into these. I know they can get a little, I don't want to say boring, but this is all for those of us who really follow this case. This is all really important stuff.
Yeah.
And it's going to help us when the trial rolls around, because we kind of already know some of the basics, and that way we can just concentrate on watching things. And I'm very interested, sometimes with this case, things get stale, and then you're left to kind of regurgitate things you've talked about before. But this document dump is like the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it's like it helps you even connect when they black out names or whatever. You can kind of piece together
right.
who's who.
And that's why I want to go back to that previous document dump we got, because now that we've heard new names of people, maybe we could tie some things in there. But next week too, we're going to kind of take a day where we don't do Valo Daybell. We may jump back on Petito Laundry just to see, there's nothing really new, but there's still things to talk about. So those of you that aren't really following this case, we got you covered coming up soon. And Saturday, what we got going on?
We've got, we're going to share 2 missing person cases Saturday. So,
yeah. So, and then we'll take Sunday off, and we'll be back on Monday. But we appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. This was a little bit of a short one, but we wanted to finish this up so Monday we can start fresh with Zulema's stuff. And yeah, so don't forget Dateline Friday. We should be back tomorrow. If not, I'm trying to do a little research for our international listeners, because they can't watch it. Yeah. I know that there are virtual private networks you can pay to have that will mirror your IP to a United States address. And I might tweet out the one that I use, because when I want to watch like my British shows. So anyways, all right, you guys have a good day, and we will see you soon.